I am here with Merepeka. She was in fact the cause of a crash that claimed the life of a young girl. So we're here to talk about what her life has been like since then and the impact of the crash. So thanks for joining me, Merepeka. Really appreciate it. So maybe let's just start off by telling me, what life was like before the crash.
Life was addiction before my accident. Addiction and work. Not just addicted to work, but addicted to drugs and alcohol as well. I gave up one horrific drug, which was methamphetamine, and unfortunately picked up alcohol. I was already a drinker, but I feel like before the accident I felt like my life was spiralling and alcohol was the only thing that was numbing because I didn't want to go back to drugs. So I picked up the bottle, and that's what led me to my accident and where I am today.
And was there any sort of warning signs that it was really headed in a direction?
I think my boss at the time, I was a dairy farmer, and I was going to work hungover, I was going to work drunk, and although in his eyes, I got 2 pay rises in 1 year, so I must have been doing something right. Yeah. But I think in his eyes he could see what I was doing and where I was heading, and I think he knew, it wasn't going anywhere good. So sometimes he would, try and ask me, what are you up to tonight after work? And I, every day the answer would be the same, I'm just going to go and grab a box.
Right.
So it was definitely just going down the rabbit hole of alcohol and isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what happened on the day of the crash?
So I actually, funnily enough, I remember that whole day right up until about 5:30. So I woke up, drove from where I was staying to my friend's house, who actually is now has been my caregiver for the past 4 years. I drove to his house, and I actually dropped my dog off with him, and I said, I'm just going to shoot up to Hamilton quickly, and when I go get my nipple pierced, that was the whole senses of me dropping my dog off, and I didn't want to leave him in my car for that whole time. It was quite a hot day that day.
Yeah.
And it was also my first day off in about 14 days. So, I just wanted to go and do something, and I had planned on getting a drink, but I planned on drinking where my dog was, going back to where my dog was and drinking there.
Yeah.
So I'd driven up from Te Kuiti to Hamilton, did what I said I was going to do, and at the time, TikTok had been, a couple of years big, or a year big at the time, and I had kind of built up a massive following, and there was a young lady on there that had followed me, and she was from the same region as I was, and I ended up messaging her and saying, I'm going to be driving past your village, do you want to meet up and have a drink?
Yeah.
She said, yep. And so I ended up at this young lady's place, never met her before, didn't know her beforehand, so it was the first time meeting somebody. And of course, I think when you meet somebody for the first time, drinking kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So we did. I got a 12-pack of RTT vodkas, and I remember the last thing I actually remember is being on my 2 final cans, and I said to her, I'm just going to go to the toilet. I need to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Went to the toilet, I had a glass of water, went back outside, carried on drinking, and my plan was, because I had a self-contained vehicle, so my plan was to just sleep in the vehicle and wake up the next day and go to milking. I think I worked the next morning.
Yeah.
And apparently around 8:30 at night, I had got into my van and started driving home to my dog, to get my dog.
Oh, yeah.
Is what I thought what I believe I was doing. And then, ended up crashing head on into a young lady who was on her way to her friend's wedding. And unfortunately, because of me, she didn't make it there.
Right. So like crossing the centre line.
Yeah. And apparently I'd done a lot more, like according to the witness statements at the time, there were 6 witnesses that came forward and said that I'd crossed the centre line multiple times.
Oh wow.
That I'd driven straight over a roundabout, you know, and these are things that I don't remember.
Wow.
And I remember when I was being told about that, thinking, why didn't those people call the police? You know, like if that was me and I'd seen that, my first reaction would be to call the police, right? Because that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I still 100% believe that had they called the police, somebody would be alive today.
Wow.
You know,
so people saw them and didn't call
yeah.
them. Yeah.
So, you know, I think about that and it does, you know, kind of get me a little bit upset sometimes. But you know, what's done is done, and I can't change what I did, but I can change who I am now.
Yeah.
And
do you remember do you remember the actual crash, like seeing the crash scene and kind of getting out of the car or anything?
No, so the police officer, the first responder, he was the man, so I was in a coma for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
And when I woke up out of that coma, that first responder was the one who came and interviewed me.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you know, I can't believe that I'm sitting here with you today, because I thought you were dead. Apparently I was naked. I was naked and sitting in the passenger seat. He found me in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
So he thought initially that there had been somebody else that was driving, because of where I was found and the position I was found in. I don't remember anything after 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I don't remember the accident. I don't remember being pulled out of the car. I don't remember going to the hospital.
Wow.
All I remember is waking up from a coma that I'd been in for 2 weeks, thinking, what are you doing in my house? Because my father, who I now have learned that at the time I was estranged from, was on my left-hand side, and my mother, who I hadn't seen for nearly 7 years, was on my right-hand side, and I just remember waking up, looking at them, thinking, what are you doing in my house?
Wow. And so how did you find out that a girl had passed away?
It wasn't actually for about 4 weeks after waking up out of my coma that I was informed that somebody had passed away.
Oh my goodness.
I kind of knew, like, once I realised where I was and what had happened, I just had this, you know, this sinking feeling that something really bad had happened and I'm going to have to pay the consequences for those actions. And I did, and I still am.
And what was that like to find out that a girl had...
Heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking because I realised from that moment that I was officially a statistic, you know. Not only was I a drink driver, but I was a Māori. I was a drink driver and I'd killed somebody, I'd taken somebody's life. So it was heartbreaking, not just, you know, for the girl and her whānau, but for me as well, because I'd never expected that I would be a statistic.
Yeah.
I never thought I was going to be a statistic. I just always thought that I was going to roll through life being a drunk.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And we'll just take it back to a step, because you said that you know, you were sort of having like a box a night. So how did it get to that kind of point of having like a box a night? Like what was kind of leading to...
I think it was, you know, after time, like I tried to have contact with my family, tried to do better things, tried to have better people around me, and none of that was working. You know, my family didn't want anything to do with me. The people around me were horrible. They didn't care about me. They just cared about the fact that, you know, you're going to buy the next bit of alcohol, right? You're going to buy our smokes, right? and they would take advantage of me, and like if I look, like when I look back now through my childhood and growing up, that's what I was raised around, so I became just like my mother. Really.
Okay.
And unfortunately my mother is still deep in alcoholism,
Yeah.
and it's been like that my whole life, and
So you grew up around a lot of it, so it was quite sort of normal. And
I have this saying, and my family may not agree with it, but I definitely, now being sober, see it for what it is. I grew up. I come from a long line of drugs and alcohol.
Right.
E roto i te ao Māori, in the Māori world, we have a saying that we come from a long line of chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
That may be true for some of us, but I know that for myself, I come from a long line of drug addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah.
Did
it start as kind of 1 drink and 2 and 5 and 10, or how did it kind of?
It's exactly like that.
Oh, right.
It starts off as 1, and unfortunately, and I think I learned this from my mother too, growing up, because I was raised with my mother.
Yeah.
And I learned from her that she can't say no to alcohol. 1 turns into 2, 2 turns into 3,
Right.
3 turns into a box, and a box turns into 2 boxes.
Yeah.
And then the abuse starts and all that kind of stuff. So that's exactly the kind of environment, for some reason, that I put myself in. And waking up sober the next day, trying not to remember what had happened the night before, I'd just grab another beer.
Yeah.
So it just carried on. It was just a vicious cycle that carried on until the 30th of March 2022.
Had you tried to get like some help for the drinking at all? Or?
Never.
Oh, okay.
Never, because I never thought I was an alcoholic.
I see.
I never wanted to admit. You would never, 6 years ago, you would never hear me say that, I'm an alcoholic and I have an issue.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to not admit that you have a problem.
Yeah.
Especially with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
When I was high on drugs all the time, I would say the same thing. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
There's no way I have a problem. After just spending all my money on drugs and having nothing to eat and no petrol in my car to go somewhere because I've spent it all on drugs, and those drugs are now gone.
Yeah.
So I've got to live day to day for the next week to figure out how I'm either going to get more drugs or more money or food even. So it's just been a vicious cycle of denial.
Yeah. And so the accident happens. You're in the coma. A couple of weeks later, you hear that the girl's passed away, and then what happens from there? Do you try and reach out to the family, or what happens after that?
I've tried to reach out to the family multiple times. I knew from having the interview with the police, that I didn't want to carry on the way that I was before my accident. I knew that something had to change.
Yeah.
And I knew that the only person that could do that was me.
Yeah.
And then, I had moments with my family that were present at the time. I want to, now that I'm sober, I want answers to some questions. And they didn't want to answer those questions. They put blame onto me and carried on about their days.
So you get accountability from them about how they raised you or something. Yeah.
And then my parents, kind of looked to my friend who's now been my caregiver for 4 years and said, she's your problem. So from that moment, from the moment that they decided they didn't want anything to do with me, I thought, right, I've got to do something to, reach out to this whānau, show them that either I'm not going to continue the way that I was. I want to show them that their daughter's life meant something. And it didn't just mean me going out and getting another box and carrying on like I had before, I knew I had to just take responsibility for my actions at the time. So, you know, through restorative justice, I tried reaching out to them.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it at the time. I didn't realise that, you know, you can't push them you can't force them to want to meet with you, to want to hear from you, because they're dealing with loss right now. You know, like I've dealt with loss my whole life, but never like that. Never to where my loved one has been taken by callous actions of another person. So I went to jail for 6 months, and every day I would write letters to them, you know, send them to the judge or to whoever, you know, I could, to try and get those letters out to them.
Yeah.
And then I got out of jail and I reached out to restorative justice again to try and make contact, and every time I did that for 3 years, I was just hitting brick walls, you know. They didn't want to meet with me. They just never answered my calls, until Waitangi weekend, when I had a article released, and I actually wasn't made aware of the release of that article. So it was a couple of days after the article had been released that I read it, and saw that the journalist doing that article had got in touch with the family. And they had said, you know, if Merepeka wants to reach out to us and apologise formally to us, we're on board with that. And when I saw that, I was like, right, this is my opportunity. I'd been waiting for this for 4 years, you know. So I jumped straight on the phone just from reading that article to restorative justice to see if, you know, really what they were saying was true, if they did want to meet, because I was really keen. And I thought at the time, well, I know that I'm in a better place now to be able to speak with them. But I've again heard nothing. And that kind of bummed me out a little bit. It still kind of bums me out, because it makes me think, oh, you know, do they really want to hear from me? Or did they just say that for the article?
So maybe some kind of communication.
But now, you know, like I see what restorative justice mean when you can't push somebody that is dealing with such a big loss, even though it's been 4 years. You can't push this family to want to sit down and communicate with you, because it just dredges up so much emotion, so much pain. And I understand that, you know. So I think my last kind of contact with restorative justice was about 2 or 3 months ago, when I'd said, you know, like, have they reached out yet? They said no, and I said cool. And so I consciously made the decision that, right, wait for them. You know, if they really do want to hear from you, because I was prepared to book a fly up to Taranaki, which is where they're from. Fly up to Taranaki, all paid for by myself, you know, sit with them, do what I need to, because I know that there's nothing that I can say that will fix their hearts. I know their hearts are broken. My heart's broken too, but not as much as theirs. And I know there's nothing that I can say or do that'll fix what I've done. But yeah, I was, and I still am, you know, was fully prepared to just fly up there, sit with them, not give them, not say what they want to hear, you know, but to have them see that their daughter's life did mean something. You know, and that I am, you know, doing what I said I was going to do. Which was to stay sober, and I have been.
How would you say that the crash changed you as a person?
Oh my God. You know, if I look at myself now to where I was 5-6 years ago, completely different person. There's no way I would be sitting here holding myself accountable for my actions, saying that I had a problem, because I know I did. you know. Now that I'm sober, I know I had a problem.
Yeah.
But 5-6 years ago, there's no way I'd admit to having a problem because I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind at the time, I didn't have a problem.
Yeah.
So I think the person that I was to the person that I am now is so completely different.
Yeah.
So much more responsible. A lot more isolated, but that's my own choice. You know, that's how I think I keep myself out of trouble. You know, temptation's still there. You know, I go shopping just like any other normal person, and I see alcohol, and I sometimes think, geez, what a good day it would be to grab a beer and get drunk and fall asleep. But I know that it's not going to change.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to change the way I feel. It's not going to change anything that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And the only person that can change something that's happening is me. You know, so that's how I think this has changed me, as I'm realising now.
How did you come to terms with the fact that, like, you were responsible for someone having died? Like, I can't imagine that feeling, like, being like, I did that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how did you come to terms with that?
In all honesty, I actually still don't think that I have come to terms with it. I think that the only difference between then and now is that I don't express it as loudly as what I used to. You know, I remember I was down here at Burwood Hospital, and I was just so angry at the world, angry at myself, angry at the girl that I was drinking with, you know, because I used to like just sit in my mind and replay that day over and over again. And in my mind, it blows me away that I can remember from the moment that I woke up until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember anything else but waking up in the hospital bed.
Wow.
You know, so I thought, oh, you know, someone had drugged me, hospital didn't test for it, you know. And then I think it was in the third year, 2024, that, you know, I'd come to the realisation that you've got to stop blaming people. The moment that I stopped blaming everybody else and held myself accountable was the moment that I realised, okay, we can start moving forward now.
Yeah.
You know, doing something else rather than sitting in your own thoughts. You know, and for anybody else that's in addiction that wants to get out of it, I do not recommend isolation.
Oh, okay,
You know? Isolation is probably the worst way to go about it. But in that moment, that's what worked for me.
Yeah.
And both drugs and alcohol. It's what worked for me, and that's how I moved forward from it. It's only been in the last 2 years that I've forgiven myself. You know, because I think about everything that was a build up to that moment. My childhood, my environments, the people that I had around me, my family that were never there, my family that never took responsibility. Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever struggled with, like, you know, whether or not you deserve happiness, like those kind of things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was actually, I want to say about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a week that I actually spent lying in my bed thinking exactly that, you know, maybe I don't deserve good things because I got so much backlash off the back of that Stuff article.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, well, maybe I don't deserve to be happy. Maybe I don't deserve forgiveness. Maybe I don't deserve this family's forgiveness, you know. And that was really, really hard for me. But doom scrolling on Facebook is also not the best thing to do, which is what I was doing at the time when a message popped up. It was somebody, I'm not religious in any way, shape or form, but it was a message that God, you know, was always with you and only He can, you know, guide you to where you need to be. And he guided me up out of my bed, back into my chair, and getting changed, washing myself, and getting outside, because that's what I was missing. I was missing the fresh air, I was missing the sun, vitamin D, all the good stuff that you get when you're outside. Bit of clarity. And so there has definitely been a lot of those moments, especially in the first 2 years that, I was trying to come to terms with the fact that I may never walk again.
So what were your what do you call it, like impacts from the crash, like personally? So you woke up in a coma, and then physically what's been the consequence for you?
So I broke my back in 2 places, top and bottom.
Wow.
I broke both of my legs. So I've got metal from my neck down to my ankles.
So you broke both your legs?
Both of my legs.
Oh my goodness. And your back?
And my back.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's so much.
It is. And I remember doctors coming in, standing at the end of my bed and saying, I can't believe you're awake.
Wow.
Like, we lost you twice just operating on you.
Wow.
I'm really surprised you're here. And then it was like 2 weeks later that I was getting up on a big walker and taking steps forward to my baby sister, and they were like, we are astounded by the fact that you're even walking, because your back is broken from top to bottom.
Wow.
And your legs are both broken. They're only been held together by rods.
Wow. So that's why you may never walk again, because it's just being held together with rods. Wow.
And then I had a infection in my right leg. They call it a pseudomonas infection. So it starts off as just a surface infection, and then if left for a period of time, it can go right through to your bone. And once it's through to your bone, there's nothing that they can do. It's amputation.
Wow.
And while I was in jail, that's what happened. They weren't taking care of the leg, and I look back on it now and I think, man, I actually, as hard as those girls in jail seem to be to the outside, they are mothers, they are sisters, they are somebody's granddaughter. And they took care of my leg better than the nurses did in there. They were doing kawa remedies and things like that, and it was working for a bit.
Oh wow.
It was actually working, it looked like that, the kawa was drawing all of the infection out of the leg. But because the medical system just had no care whatsoever, it was just too far gone by the time even that I even got to jail.
Wow.
And the girls in there, they tried their hardest to help me. They really wanted to see me walk again. They really wanted to see my leg healed. And I take my hat off to those wahine. If I had seen any of them right now, I would give them a hug, because they tried.
Yeah.
They tried harder than what the nurses did and the doctors did. But yeah, by my 6th month, I was told that it would need to be amputated.
Wow.
And I remember saying to the surgeon, I said, yeah, that's all good and fine. I'm fine with it being amputated, but you're not going to do it and send me back to jail.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had already appealed my sentence. I think that if I was physically fine, I think I would have done my full sentence in jail. I would have been more than happy to do my full sentence in jail, but I couldn't even stand.
Yeah. So your leg was actually amputated?
Yeah. So my leg was amputated after getting out of jail.
Yeah.
And that was really the only reason why I got out of jail, was because my leg had to be amputated.
Wow. So it wasn't. So you appealed the sentence not because you didn't think you deserved, like, it was actually because of the leg.
Yeah.
The leg. Wow.
Yeah. The only reason why I appealed the sentence at all was because of my physical health at the time, and the jail system, I can't remember, I don't know what they're called, but they kept saying, we can look after her, we've been taking care of her and the actual fact of the matter was, well, no you can't, and no you weren't, because look at my leg now.
Yeah.
Like there was a big hole, it went from, only being a tiny hole to being a grape-sized fruit, a grape.
What would you say, what part of your story is the hardest part to talk about?
Sobriety, I actually think, being sober is really daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand now why, people struggled, especially tangata Māori, where throughout our whole childhoods, our livelihoods, the part that mould you the most, or you're exposed to drugs and alcohol. So I do understand how hard it is for tangata Māori to realise that they have an issue, have a problem, have an addiction.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is to stay sober when all you want to do is drink, especially when everybody else around you is drinking.
Yeah. And so what do you wish others would know?
It's okay. I really do want, especially tangata Māori, to understand that it's absolutely okay to admit that you have a problem. It doesn't make you any less of a man, of a woman, of a rangatahi, of a child, to admit that you have an issue. The sooner you do it, the better your life becomes. And it's hard for the first year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say for the first couple of days it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for the first year, at least for me anyway.
Yeah.
But it does get easier. And it does get easier to say no, because it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
It's okay to let your friends know that you don't drink anymore. That water is your thing now.
Yeah.
That juice is your thing now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might slip up and have that one drink throughout your sobriety, but it's what you do afterwards that matters the most.
Yeah.
That one slip up does not define you or your sobriety.
Yeah.
Because I have had one drink myself throughout the last 4 years. And I even remember waking up and thinking, does that mean I've fucked up? Like I've fucked up?
Yeah.
Does that mean that I'm back to where I was 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And all that mattered is, for me, is how I went about it moving forward. It was still no. It was still no, I don't drink. It was still no, thank you, I don't want to drink. I'm fine with water.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you carry on, because everyone says do it, if not for yourself, for your family, do it for yourself first.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself first, because if you can't do it for yourself, you can't do it for your family. So be strong, stay strong.
Yeah.
And stand your ground in who you are.
Yeah.
Because it takes a mighty strong person to, one, admit that they have a problem, two, to want to be sober, and doing sober. Doing sober and staying sober.
Yeah.
Aha ko te aha. Ngā piki me ngā heke, there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be temptations, but do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you can't do it for yourself, then you can't do it for your family.
Yeah. And what's next for you? What are you looking forward to now?
Studying. I'm studying for the first time in my whole entire life. Last year I graduated from level 3 and 4 Te Reo Māori.
Nice.
Merepeka, and it is the first time in my whole life that I've ever finished anything educational.
Nice.
Because, with drugs and alcohol being my friends, I didn't think I was good enough to finish anything because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
So doing education through a sober lens has been amazing, has been such a uplifting journey for myself, because it allows me to carry on into the next level, to the next taumata. So currently I'm doing taumata 5 te ronakitanga ki te reo kairangi. And I think, although it's a path that I've been trying to avoid for many, many years, I think that teaching may be my araho, my new path,
Okay.
that I try and walk down and if not walk wheel.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, that's what, you know, like I've always loved te ao Māori, te reo Māori, ka paka.
Yeah.
So that's where I want my world now to be. Even if people, you know, see my articles from the past and don't agree with it, then, you know, that's their thing. It's like I was saying earlier, it's about the now.
Yeah.
What you do with it moving forward, you know, that matters the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, ka paka, te ao Māori, and hopefully eventually work.
Yeah.
I was a dairy farmer before this, so I don't think I'll be going back then. So if teaching is what I do, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, well thank you so much for sharing your story, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to see which guest we are going to have next week. So thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, ka kite.